to start with the JP, and I'm just going to play some riffs on it without the pedal, and then I'm going to turn, let's go ahead and turn the mud killer on first and mess around with that, and then we'll go to the Horizon Devices Precision Drive after that. Okay, so when I turned the pedal on, I noticed that the amp had a little more push. It felt better. It was more responsive, and it was almost like a hard nudge, but not a really, really good push yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to make the adjustments on the pedal that make it sound what I think it should sound like. So bear in mind, this is my taste, and there's a reason why they have knobs on them, right? So let's go ahead and see how hard I can push this amp and how I can sculpt the tone in a way it works better for me. Okay, 1 second, and then we'll do a mix. Alright, that was freaking way better. So what I did is I turned the pre-gain up to 9 o'clock, which isn't much, and then I put it a little more towards the skinny side on the fat skinny knob. In other words, the mud control. I cut out a little more mud, so it's at about 1 o'clock, and then I cranked the tone all the way up, and it gave the amp that little bit of extra grit that I'm looking for and attack. And the JP is a very fat, very huge sounding, bold amp. So you can get away with pushing a few things on it a little harder. In other words, you can give it a little more bite, and you can add a little more pre-gain, and it feels really responsive right now, and I love how it feels. So I'll play a couple more riffs on it, and then I'm going to switch to the Horizon Devices pedal. I'll dial that in if need be. These are nice. These are my favorite settings on the pedal, so I'll probably just leave them there. And then I'll do it back and forth, and then I'll just pick one and do a mix with it. Okay, so I noticed that the precision drive with the settings that it has right now had more bite, and that's what I'm used to, than the Mud Killer did with everything at noon kind of settings. But when I cranked some stuff on the Mud Killer, when I added a little more skinniness to it and cranked the tone all the way up, it really did its own version of what the precision drive does. I feel like it's got more mids though. There's like this really nice gritty mid kind of thing going on there. It's subtle but noticeable. I think it sounds freaking really good, feels great. I'm just so used to the precision drive that a lot of times what I do is when I'm shooting pedals out with it, I try to get them to sound more like the precision drive. And sometimes they can't, and sometimes they get very close, but they have their own version of what the precision drive does. And that's what's happening here. Now, here's something I want to point out, though. This is something that I want all pedals to start doing when it comes to making overdrive pedals. Put a noise gate in it after the circuit, because that is such a key element here. And I think that that's probably... for some people it might be a deal breaker if the pedals are really close in sound and feel. They might be like, I'll just stick with the one that has the noise gate in it, because the noise gate does make a hell of a difference, it's an important thing. So the Mud Killer does not have a noise gate, but the precision drive does, and trust me, it makes a difference, So you can hear it right there. Like I turned the Mud Killer. Let me turn the Mud Killer on. You hear the noise? And I don't even have the amp up. You hear that? Okay, so I got the volume up now on the HELIX, which means that I'm full volume on the amplifier. Make sure I got this off. All right, so the Mud Killer's on, and with the precision drive, you're still getting a little bit of amp noise in the room as well, because that's just kind of common, I guess. So, but what I can say is the noise gate does definitely make a difference on a lot of these pedals. So depending on how you have things set up and dialed in and how noisy your amp is, it can definitely make a pretty big difference for you. So it's definitely something I think that does come in handy. In fact, I think I have a noise gate. Let me try this again. Whoa! Yeah, there it is. I had a noise gate on my HELIX as well. That's why I didn't notice a difference. So as you heard, as soon as I turned the Mud Killer on, it spiked. So let me do that with the room mic off so I can give you a better example. There's the example I was trying to give you earlier, because I had a noise gate on the HELIX. That's why. Okay, so there's the difference. So that's why I think that that should be a standard feature on all overdrive pedals. Yeah, it costs more, but you're saving a lot of money by having that in there, by not having to have another noise gate on your pedal board and having to buy it. So if they could put it in there, I think that would add, because I'm one of those guys. Like if I make, I own a business too, but the way I look at things with my business is I don't ever want anybody to have a reason to say no to me. That's legit. Like, oh, if he was only this way or did the things this way. I want to take all those things out of the equation so that people will always hire me to do work for them. And I would look at it the same way with pedals. Like, leave nothing to chance. And I know cost is a thing, and I'm not saying that this pedal isn't worth buying. It's a very good pedal. I bought it. It's awesome. But I'm just saying that having a noise gate would make a big difference. All right, so we're still on the JP. Let me just do a mix real quick with this amplifier. And it's just going to be a standard thing. I'm still not up to par yet with my playing, but I'll do it with the Mud Killer. Why not? Let's just see what that sounds like, okay? Okay, yeah, performed very well. I think it sounds great with the amp. The JP is, as you know, is a freaking killer amplifier. It's one of my favorite amps, and I think it, and these pedals all work differently with different amps. Some amps just don't like certain pedals, but the JP's definitely digging the Mud Killer, and I think it sounds really freaking good. So let me go back and forth between these two pedals again real quick, and then I will switch amps, and we'll move on to the next one. One thing I wanted to make note of as well is, so you have an attack knob on the precision drive, which basically is the knob that cuts the low end out and gives you that nice attack, that clarity, like the Mud Killer kind of thing, it cuts out the low knob. Now this attack knob is notched, so it's basically kind of making decisions for you as far as where you're going to put it. You have 6 positions, but you have to like pick one of those 6. Where the Mud Killer, it's a variable knob. So you can turn it wherever you want, and you can get all those in-between sculpting notches, or I shouldn't say notches because there's no notches, but in-between sculpting places where you can really fine-tune the low end of the amplifier, and it really does make a big difference, because sometimes what I've found on the precision drive is I wish there was an in-between spot, because like, man, I want a little more low end, but when I put it to the next spot, it's cutting out too much now. And yeah, sometimes you can add it back in on the amp, but sometimes you can't. And it all depends on the frequencies that you're actually adding in on the amplifier. These are made to take out specific frequency ranges. And sometimes you can't find that frequency range that you want to add back in that the pedal took out. So it's nice to have that variable knob that really does make a big difference in how you dial in things. So I do like that, and that was one thing that I wish that they did with the precision drive, is gave you a variable thing. And I know it sounds nitpicky, but hey, when you're dialing in your tone, that's when you're nitpicking everything. That's when you're sculpting, so it makes sense. So I'll show you that real quick on this amp. I'll take the Mud Killer knob all the way down. And so it's got the most mud in the fat section, and I'll just turn it up as I play and show you how effective it is. Man, that's nice. I love that variable knob. I really think that that's an awesome feature to have. I really do. You guys know I'm an options guy. I always love having more options. So that variable knob is a really big plus for me. And I love the fact that the tone knob, if you crank it all the way up, it's still usable. At least with the JP. When I get another amp up here, I might have to back it down a little bit, because it all depends on how that amp is receiving those frequencies. If the amplifier that you're using is pushing those frequencies anyways, and then now you're double pushing them, yeah, it's going to get too sharp. But with the JP, so far, it's perfect. I can have it all the way up, and it's completely usable. I really like that. I like it a lot.